I just would like to take 5 to 10 minutes to highlight certain elements of Telangana Caste Census. Already PCC President Telangana has explained the background, how it was done. So the broad outline of this presentation is what is caste census, its potential. Most of it is already talked about, so I will not go into the details. Spend more time on Telangana model, and finally highlight very clearly what should be our demands on Government of India. To begin with, I think all of us need to understand that the path towards equity chosen by Indian Constitution is unparalleled in the world. If you look at any other constitution, you would not find the kind of thrust that is given to the equality. But yet, the goal of equality has not been realized, primarily because it is stonewalled by the caste system. That is something that all of us need to acknowledge. And what the Constitution has tried to do is to give a break from the past. The Constitution challenges the norms that granted monopoly over knowledge and capital to some. So the caste census that we are talking about is primarily to understand what is this monopoly. Who has this monopoly over knowledge and capital? What kind of a monopoly certain sections have got on the knowledge and the capital is what the caste census is going to tell us, so that we'll be able to understand what exactly is coming in the way of our endeavor to realize the ultimate goal of equality in the society. So that's why I have defined the caste census as it measures the nature and extent of maldistribution of resources. I would like each one of you to kind of remember this word, maldistribution of resources, assets, and opportunities suffered by the communities at the receiving end of the caste system. So what the caste system has brought out is, it has brought out a situation where there is a maldistribution of resources, assets, and opportunities suffered by the communities at the receiving end of the caste system. When top 1% of population controls 22% of national income, when top 1% of population controls 46% of the nation's wealth, and if you don't find a single SC, ST, OBC recipient of large contracts, mining contracts, power purchase agreements, national highway contracts, Jal Shakti contracts, defense contracts, airports, minor ports, privatization, that is the maldistribution of resources. If you don't find a single SC, ST, OBC owners of, say, Fasal Bima Yojana insurance companies, fertilizer companies, that is maldistribution of resources, opportunities. If you don't find proportionate representation of SC, ST, OBCs among judiciary, media, owners of private medical colleges, private engineering colleges, hospitals, and among the top echelons of bureaucracy, that is the maldistribution of assets, opportunities that we need to understand. That is what the caste system is trying to bring out. So in effect, caste system actually is unmasking the privileges of upper caste in every walk of public life. That is why, for decades, the upper castes have stonewalled the very idea of caste system, because they don't want to unmask the privileges they have been enjoying. I would like to just spend a few minutes to tell you what kind of a potential caste census has already demonstrated to us. If you look at, I'll just few minutes. Huh? If you look at 1980-81 census, first time upper caste, lower caste, depressed classes and tribes were measured. 1901 census, that is the time when thousands of subcastes were enumerated. 1911 and 1931 census continued detailed caste enumeration. These caste census that has come up in the year 1911 brought out how 3% of population is dominating in government jobs and education in Madras Presidency that time. That has given rise to formation of Justice Party to advocate non-Brahmin rights. 1927 to 1950, in Madras Presidency, there used to be a communal GO, which was in effect till 1950, which has provided reservation to various communities. And in the year 1950, Jairamji has explained how this communal GO was challenged in Champakam Dorairajan case and how Pandit Jawaharlal Nehruji and Babasaheb Ambedkar has addressed by bringing in this first constitutional amendment. And you know what was exactly that Article 15.4. The point I'm trying to make is the data that has come in the 1911 census, how it has really given way to social justice movements. And the data that has come in 1931 has become handy for Babasaheb Dr. Ambedkar to demand representation in elected positions for scheduled castes. And the data that has come about scheduled castes and scheduled tribes from the decennial census from the year 1951 to 71 has brought out as how scheduled castes, scheduled tribes were not really on par with the rest of the societies. There's a lot of gap between them and the rest of the society and various development parameters. Recognizing this, Indira Gandhi ji has brought in tribal subplan in the year 1974, scheduled caste subplan in the year 1979. Why I'm saying this is, even in the past also, the census data, caste census data has helped to bring in certain reforms to achieve social justice. Same potential we'll be able to realize in the upcoming caste census also. That is why I wanted to take you into the past. Now coming to the caste census in Telangana. The Telangana caste census is called Socio-Economic, Educational, Employment, Political and Caste Survey. It started on 19th October and completed by 4th February 2005. And why it is a model to follow? Why are we demanding now that central government is going to take up a decennial census and include the OBC caste census apart from SC/ST census? Why are we demanding the central government should follow Telangana model? I'll just take 5 minutes and then close. First point is the household schedule. Jairamji has shown the household schedule that is followed for the decennial census. It has 29 questions. The Telangana caste census, we have looked at the decennial census questions. We also looked at socio-economic caste census and then decided that we need to collect information on 75 parameters covering 56 questions. Because the whole idea is we wanted the data to be useful for our planning to achieve social justice, to realize equality in the society. That's why we have taken the opinion of large number of people across all the districts. We have placed the decennial census schedule, we have placed the socio-economic caste census schedule, and we asked them what more questions we need to ask. Across all the districts, consultations have happened with the political representatives, with the civil society organizations. Through those consultations, a household schedule covering 56 questions to elicit information on 75 parameters has been designed. And before we have done this, before we have actually started the survey, we have done a piloting of this household schedule in a number of villages so that we wanted to really understand how the schedule really working at the ground. Another most important thing, that is what I just would like to highlight for a minute, the listing of the OBC castes. Meticulous care has been taken in Telangana to list out all the OBC castes which are there in the state list, which are there in the central list, and also we have taken care to list the OBC castes of those people who are migrating from other states, because a large number of people live in Hyderabad from other states. We have also collected their caste so that every household living in the state of Telangana, their caste is enumerated. So a lot of effort has gone in to list out these castes, not only of the OBCs, but also the general castes. That's why, while the caste census were going on, we never got any complaint that a particular caste of native of Telangana or those migrants from other states is not captured. Data on, and when you compare the decimal census and also socio-economic caste census, on about 51 additional parameters, we have collected the data in Telangana caste census. Now, looking at the kind of numbers, the state has deployed 94,863 enumerate. We have formed 94,863 enumeration blocks, each enumeration block covering 125 to 150 houses. So in the first phase, arriving at the enumeration blocks and then doing the house listing happens like the way it happens in the decimal census. The state has appointed 94,863 enumerators and then 9,628 supervisors. About 1.12 crore families have been covered. 97% of the families have been covered. After completing the exercise, when the state has found certain households were missing, again, second round of survey has also happened to give opportunity to those who have not been covered. And 3.54 crore people have been covered. Soon after the completion of the survey, Telangana Assembly, Mahesh has explained, they passed two legislations. One legislation to step up the OBC reservation to 42% in the government jobs and educational institutions. Another legislation to step up OBC reservation in the local bodies to 42%. And Honorable CM has announced the broad findings of the survey in the Assembly. And an expert committee has been constituted to analyze the data. The expert committee, in fact, which met yesterday, they have deliberated on the data. They have been looking at the data. They have come up with a very good decision that they will estimate what is called composite backwardness index. They will estimate composite backwardness index for 73 castes. These 73 castes cover nearly 96% of Telangana population. Though there are 243 castes that were enumerated, of them 73 castes cover 96% of the population. So for these 73 castes, for every caste, a composite backwardness index is going to be estimated and notified, and it is going to be put in the public domain. So a family belonging to a particular caste would be able to really know across various parameters, across 43 parameters covering 7 categories, where do they stand vis-a-vis other castes. That kind of a composite backwardness index is announced. The 7 parameters on which this composite backwardness index is going to be announced, or social, education, living standards, occupation, income, movable assets, and immovable assets. And finally, what are our demands? What shall be our demands? Number one, Telangana model shall be followed in terms of process we follow. All of us have seen how the decennial census happen. Nobody knows what are the questions unless that enumerator comes and asks the questions from us. We are demanding that before you print the 31 crore household schedules, spend 1 or 2 months and do a consultation to arrive at what are the questions you want to ask. That is our major demand based on our experience from Telangana. Secondly, you need to list out for every state the OBC caste diligently, because not only OBC castes, other castes also, because there may be a lot of people coming on migration. So a lot of due diligence has to happen in listing the castes. And the third demand, as I've been looking after Jharkhand, I've seen how for tribals of Jharkhand, nothing else is more important than having Sarna Dharma code in the census. Because in the census, tribals would like to notify their dharma. They don't want to be pushed against those 6 religious codes. So the demand for Sarna Dharma code is very strong in many tribal areas, and Congress party has to take a stand and then demand, because we need to articulate this demand right now, otherwise the schedules will be printed and then we'll lose the opportunity. And then Sir has explained in great detail, lifting of 50% ceiling on reservations. That is a demand that we need to really articulate very clearly. And finally, if you look at the decennial census, where we collect the information on SCs and STs, in the Register of Census Data website, you will find information across various parameters for SCs and STs. But you will not find same in-depth information on religion category. Only a few parameters will find that information. So I am afraid that in the upcoming census, the government may conduct, may collect information, enumerate the OBCs, but ultimately they may not end up notifying all the parameters of all the OBC communities. Then the purpose of the caste census will not be served. That's why we need to demand that the Registrar of Census has to notify reports across all the parameters on which information is collected. So thank you very much.